fight the authoritarian administration in Washington, D.C. We have to fight for the working people in this city who are being pushed out of the place that they call home. And I look at Congressmember Espaillat, and I see a guide for how to do both of those things at the same time.
Welcome to New York One's Off Topic on Politics. I'm New York One investigative reporter Courtney Gross. Zohran Mamdani has the Democratic nomination and is starting to coalesce support around his candidacy for the general election. He's endorsed by the Teachers Union and today, being Thursday, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Will others get in line? We will get to all of it. And then Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams are debating who should stay in the race. How is the other side prepping to take on Mamdani? We'll get to that as well. And joining me for the discussion is our Bobby Cuza.
Hi, Courtney. Are we good?
I feel like you use the same tonation every week.
Is that okay?
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Are we going to talk about SAT scores?
It's funny because, well, you guys went to Ivy Leagues. Ayana Harry is also here.
Hi.
I'm like the dunce at the table that went to
Emerson, which has a highly respected polling operation.
Apparently we do.
Yes. And the Emerson Mafia, that's what, isn't that what it's called? That's what I call all the Emerson people who work in journalism.
I just thought it was funny that Zohran Mamdani's SAT score came up. It was it was like
he's so young that the SAT is like I don't
even know what a good SAT score is.
They went back. Right? They went back to the old score. They went back to 1600 because they had that like 22,000 something. They went back.
I think he was like
he was in
that. Oh, right. Yeah. He got 2140.
I was
just
like,
for the
that
record.
Sounded good.
Yeah,
but
I have
maybe
no idea
it
what that
wasn't.
means.
I guess whoever wrote the story, I can't remember. I think I read it in the Daily News. The 21's score was at the low end to get into Columbia. So they made him sound like, yeah, he's smart, but not the smartest of the smart. Right? So, okay. But just to jump into Mamdani, he's gotten the endorsement of the Teachers Union. Was that altogether, I wasn't that surprised by that. I mean, Michael Mulgrew had kind of kept his cards close to the vest. They obviously did not endorse during the primary. And I think of them as one of the big five, right? There are a couple of unions that have a lot of force, a lot of manpower or people power that go out and can make a big difference in any election. That, of course, is, the building service workers, hotel workers, the DC 37 municipal workers,
health service,
1199, and then the fifth, the big five, is the Teachers Union. So they came out and endorsed Zohran Mamdani.
Yeah. I mean, the unions didn't really help Andrew Cuomo that much in the primary.
Well, that was my next question. You're beating me to the punch, Bobby, but that's
fine. I mean, obviously you want to have union support, but the idea has always been that the unions give you all this organizational support. They turn out the vote, they get their members in line. But I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, I don't know how true that is anymore, because you had Cuomo with all the union support, but then Mamdani had 50,000 or whatever volunteers out on the street knocking on doors and making phone calls, and that was a lot more effective than having the union support. But I mean, but that being said, I'm sure Mamdani does not mind having all these unions come out behind him, especially because they all supported Cuomo in the primary, and now they're jumping ship.
Yeah,
and that's that is a sign that not only is do they not see Cuomo as viable, but it just adds to this idea that Mamdani is becoming more and more inevitable. Maybe inevitable is a strong word, but
they say that about Andrew Cuomo. So
that's true.
That word.
But obviously these unions and some of these electeds, they are seeing that Mamdani is the best bet to win in November, and so they're getting behind him.
I will say this, in terms of Andrew Cuomo, he almost solely relied on the unions for his get out the vote apparatus. And so I think perhaps unions did work for Andrew Cuomo, and perhaps that's the only reason why he did as well as he did. I don't know. I think obviously just relying on the unions is not a winning strategy, as we just saw from Andrew Cuomo. But I think UFT does make a difference. So many New York City teachers live in New York City, right? Because we do have these unions where, like for the PBA example, like that's a big union to get, but how many police officers rank and file actually live in New York City and can vote in local elections? Whereas UFT, I get a sense that there are a lot of local members who can vote and who can organize. And they do seem fired up. So I think in terms of how endorsements go, I think this is one that does matter.
I think it lends a little bit of legitimacy to his candidacy as well. And not to say that his candidacy isn't legitimate, but in the aftermath of his victory, there has been so much, to some extent, fear mongering, a lot of nervousness and fear from other Democrats, moderates, more conservatives. And the fact that you have more center of the road or political establishment coming in and backing Mamdani shows that he can potentially, that's why I put in the intro, is he coalescing Democrats as of this point?
Yeah, and it feels like there's this drip, drip, drip almost every day.
Yes.
Someone comes out, it was the teachers union, it was Espaillat, and earlier, you had Jerry Nadler coming out
Manhattan
one day.
Democrats as well.
Manhattan Democrats this week with Keith Wright. And
Keith Wright was a backer of
Andrew Cuomo. So
Espaillat was too.
Yes. It's this steady exodus of support from Andrew Cuomo to Mamdani. And I was also thinking about it from somebody like Adriana Espaillat. It also goes both ways. People like Espaillat, they're looking at the situation and going, okay, this guy is probably going to win, and you want to be on the winner's side, right? Yeah. You want to line up with them sooner than later. And then, maybe you have his ear in the lead up to the election. So it works, it works for everybody. But to your point, it also, it adds to the sense that it legitimizes Mamdani in a way, because there was no sure thing that everybody was going to get behind Mamdani after the primary.
Correct.
Cuomo wasn't clear. He's still not really clear if he's going to run in November, but there's been a lot of skepticism about Mamdani and this idea that maybe he's too extreme. So even though he is the Democratic nominee for mayor, not everybody has gotten behind him yet, but it's almost snowballing now to the point where it's going to be hard for the Kathy Hochul's and Chuck Schumer's of the world not to come out and endorse them
and
at some
Hakeem
point.
Jeffries. I'm looking at the Manhattan Democrats X account where they put out their statement talking about how they're backing Mamdani. And when that came out earlier this week, I was surprised because I covered the press conference with Keith Wright backing Andrew Cuomo, and that felt like that was literally just 2 weeks ago. And maybe it was 3 weeks ago, but it felt like it just happened. And then all of a sudden to do the turnaround so quick is so interesting. And their tweet is, or X or whatever you call it now, is funny because it just says Democrats supporting Democrats, period.
Yeah.
So groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny because it's just this is what they're saying, this is what you're supposed to do. And especially for someone like Keith Wright, who's leading the Manhattan Democrats, Manhattan voted for Mamdani. Brooklyn, Rodney Spichat-Hermelin, who leads the Brooklyn Democrats.
Yes.
Brooklyn voted for Mamdani. They're also looking out for their own behinds. I don't want to say the other word, right? On the podcast, we're not allowed to say. They're looking out for that because they want to make sure that they have their own political futures as well.
Absolutely. And I'll say, I think that we're at this moment where so many people are thinking about what will the future of the Democratic Party look like. And for not just folks in New York City, but folks around the country, they're beginning to say maybe it looks like Zohran Mamdani. And so, I think what happens when Democrats don't pay attention to or listen to what's happening on the ground, this is kind of what happens this election, right? And so I think some elected officials, some organizations are saying we need to be focused on what do New Yorkers actually want? Mm-hmm. Who are New Yorkers actually voting for? And we need to pay attention and listen to that because we can hold on to our idea of the Democratic Party, but we're going to be in trouble and we may very well be left behind. So I see some of that. And I spoke to Keith Wright about that endorsement from Manhattan Democrats. And he started off, first thing he said to me was he won.
Yeah.
Mamdani won. And he won, you know what I mean? And so that's really what it's about. You have a Democratic primary, you trust the process. We trusted the process. Here we are. This is the outcome. And I also will say, I think Keith Wright was a slower to endorse Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. It seemed like he was a little dragged along there. Mm-hmm. He wasn't exactly out there.
I don't know if Keith Wright said this to you, but I actually wrote down this quote because I thought it was so funny. He said, he was quoted saying, this is Keith Wright talking about Andrew Cuomo. He said, he had a good run, but the electorate spoke loudly and they spoke clearly. Sometimes you've got to know when to show them and when to fold them. Mm. And like you said, this is just a few weeks after they were behind Cuomo. So, people are jumping ship from Andrew Cuomo. I don't know if anybody has actually said that they're still supporting Andrew Cuomo.
Well, Greg Meeks, who's going to be on Inside City Hall Thursday night, and we are taping in the middle of the day, so we don't know exactly what he'll say with Errol Lewis tonight, but he was on CNN this morning, right?
Yeah. And he said that while he did back Andrew Cuomo during the primary, he has not yet made a decision on who he's going to back in the general election, but that he is going to have conversations. So it sounds like it's unclear, but certainly he's not a lock for supporting Andrew Cuomo. And how can anybody really be a lock for Andrew Cuomo when Cuomo hasn't been clear to people about what his future is going to be? Like, how can you say, I'm behind you if I don't even know if you're behind you? Are you running or not? It's tough.
So Mamdani, I'm wondering if he's moderating his, he's coalescing, he's gaining more support, but is he changing his message at all? Is he moderating? I mean, after he won, he was out there saying, I'm going to bring all of these other groups that perhaps I didn't court during the primary in. Like, am I going to talk to Black voters? Am I going to talk to Jewish voters? I mean, has he done well at appealing to those particular groups? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, especially behind the scenes. I don't know if you guys have been hearing this, but about how he's shaken up his campaign a little bit, right? Like, he had this group of very loyal supporters that were DSA, that were out there, who obviously ran a very good campaign. They won, and they won handily. But now he's this international phenomenon. He's kind of like a superstar. And they're bringing in some bigger guns to run the next phase of this, including someone who used to be high up in the DNC, I believe, some other staff shakeups. So to me, that's like, okay, we need to at least recognize that there is a broader message that we have to get out there and appeal to some more people.
Yeah, I will say the staff shakeups have, within his campaign, left some people feeling a little jilted. Yeah. And there are some folks saying, hey, we're just out there doing the work. Are you now going to bring in a whole different set of people? And what does that mean for us? So I will acknowledge that that is happening. But I do think that, like, you can run a campaign when you're under the radar. And his campaign, I think we'll all agree, was under the radar up until he won primary night. I think you have a little bit more flexibility to not necessarily have, all of these attacks coming at you the way in which they're going to be coming at him from now until November. So it does seem like you will need more established people who have more experience navigating the complexities of the space that he's in. It does seem like just his natural instincts, he's done pretty well, in my opinion, of navigating some of these, attacks that have come at him. Some are, even getting a little weird and outlandish. We're talking about his SAT score, what box he checked when he applied to Columbia, how many years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Seems like he's navigating that well, but I'm sure those attacks are going to continue to come. So you probably do need people who are like, look, this is a job. There are professionals who know how to handle communications, crisis communications, handle big time elections and campaigns. And so I think internally he probably has to figure out a way to make sure the folks who got you here still feel appreciated as you continue to build out your infrastructure.
I mean, he is just I mentioned it before, an international phenomenon. Yeah. You have Donald Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, sitting down for a dinner this week. And they end up talking about Zohran Mamdani. I mean, that is just, I realize I don't want to say he's potentially going to be the mayor of New York City. He is a front runner to be the mayor of New York City, we could say. So of course that's going to raise your profile, but not to the level of this.
No, I'm not concerned about that.
I'll get him out.
I'm going to come there with the President Trump, and we'll see how do you know who the mayor will be? I don't know that. Do we know that?
He's going to be very fine, and who knows? We don't know who the mayor's going to be yet.
Yes.
No, it's wild. I mean, think about the fact that 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, outside of our little bubble of New York politics, nobody knew who Zohran Mamdani was. I mean, he was a backbench assembly member, and even when he started running for mayor, nobody gave the guy any chance of winning.
I remember he was in here for the first time for a first sit down with Errol, and he said hi to me in the green room or in the makeup room, I think it was.
And you didn't know who he was?
I had no idea who he was. I was like, hey, what's up?
I mean, the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is weighing in on the mayor's race from the White House. Yeah. And there was, well, first of all, I don't know how much you want to get into this, but he had said not that long ago, actually, that he would have Netanyahu arrested if Netanyahu came to New York.
Because there's a warrant out for Netanyahu from the ICC.
But then, so Netanyahu was asked about that, and he said, I'm not worried about it. He said it was silly. But then there was a really funny line where Netanyahu said, "How do you know who the mayor will be?" Like I think Netanyahu was saying
following because he knows that it's just a primary,
right? And he's like, "Well, we still have we still have a general election."
Yeah.
So the idea that he's following the mayor's race in New York City is hilarious to me. And then of course Trump weighs in, as he has seemingly every day. Trump is either asked about this, or he comments on Mamdani, or he posts about it on Truth Social, and it's like something outrageous every day. He talks about the federal government coming in and also like the federal government's gonna come in and take control of New York.
I used to say we will not ever be a socialist country, right? Well, I'll say it again. We're not going to have. If a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same. But we have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to.
He was a little bit, he was not that explicit, I feel like, in his remarks about that, but he somewhat threatened funding and then said that maybe, you're right, that they could potentially come and take it over.
And he said Mamdani better behave, right? It was, threatening funding. So, it's like, do we take these threats seriously?
You know I think so, in some ways this is only helping Zohran Mamdani, right? There's a lot that's going on that's helping him. I think, President Donald Trump is incredibly unpopular in New York City, right? Even though he did better in November, his policies, how he's led, how he's governed, the immigration crackdown, like New Yorkers are not feeling Donald Trump. So the more New Yorkers more Donald Trump criticizes Mamdani, I don't think that has a whole bunch of New Yorkers like, yeah, Donald Trump is right. I agree. Like, I just don't think that's probably the reason why Eric Adams is in trouble because he's so closely aligned with Zohran Mamdani. So I think that's helping Mamdani. And I think that Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo pointing the finger at each other over who should get out, I think that helps Zohran as well. I think like all of these things designed to take him down are in some ways helping him because New Yorkers are pretty smart.
And then you have other electeds rallying around Mamdani. Yeah. Like I don't know if that was a week ago when Trump said, we don't even know if he's in this country legally or whatever.
Yeah, that was last week.
You had Hakeem Jeffries coming out and defending Mamdani. And, Jeffries hasn't even
met with him yet.
Or endorsed him. So people are rallying around Mamdani because Trump is attacking him.
Yes.
So it's also kind of, it's helping him in that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break for our podcast listeners. For our YouTube listeners, stay right here. When we get back, we will be talking about the rest of the field and what might happen with Mayor Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. So we'll be right back.
I said, Andrew, are you that level of arrogance? I'm the city mayor. I'm the city mayor of the city of New York. And you expect for me to step aside when you just lost to Zohran by 12 points. He was up 32 points, $30 million. You lost. They heard your message and you lost. Now let a fresh set of legs that has produced for this city. And that's the highest level of arrogance.
Okay. So we have a lot of candidates on the other side. I know we've talked about them all before generally, but we obviously have Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo still in the race, Jim Walden, an independent lawyer, and Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah,
How could I forget about Curtis Sliwa, who's the Republican in the race? So the week started with the mayor sitting down for a CNBC interview, I believe. And he said that Cuomo had reached out to him at some point saying that he should get out of the race. And I feel like that has since started a whole, you get out, no, you get out, 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 you get out thing all week long.
Yeah. Well, it started with Jim Walden last week when he said, all of the pro-free market candidates should coalesce behind one of them.
Right.
So he floated this idea last week that there needs to be some unity. And then David Patterson doubled down on that in this, I was at the press conference. It was weird a little bit because I wasn't quite sure where it was going.
This was Monday,
what he was trying to say Monday. Yeah. So David Patterson was having that right as the mayor was having this, sat down for this interview on CNBC, and it just really blew air on this fire of, will there be some consolidation? Mamdani is the big bad wolf. Who's going to be the one person who will take him down? And it's just gotten to be.
So Patterson had the press conference on Monday.
Yeah.
And you
Patterson,
were there.
who was a Cuomo supporter.
Yes.
Right? He backed Cuomo in the primary.
But it seemed to me, I don't know, you were there, like this half-baked press conference where he was like, we've got to rally behind one candidate.
Right.
But
and
we're
then
not
we were
saying
like,
who
exactly,
it is.
Exactly.
Like which one.
We're not saying which one or how we should rally behind them, but we should rally behind one.
But when Jim Walden came out with this idea last week, did we talk about it on the podcast? I can't remember.
Nobody took it seriously.
I know. I thought it was ridiculous. It was like so far-fetched that people were going to
He said that he should take a poll in
Right.
September, and whoever wins the poll in September should be the person that continues on in the race.
and everybody else drops out and supports, like rallies behind this one person, which on the one hand was absurd. I mean, it still is absurd. But then you have David Patterson coming out and basically endorsing it, and then Andrew Cuomo.
He basically stole his idea.
And then Andrew Cuomo kind of endorsed the idea too. So
he's definitely endorsed it. Yeah.
because Andrew Cuomo, of course, thinks he's going to win that poll, and then he'll be the guy that everybody rallies behind. But I mean, the idea that Eric Adams is going to drop out and get behind Andrew Cuomo because Cuomo is ahead in the polls. I mean, there's no world in which that is happening. And even Andrew Cuomo, even though he hasn't said for sure that he's campaigning, Andrew Cuomo is not putting aside his ego and getting behind Eric Adams or Curtis Sliwa for that matter, and supporting him.
Yeah.
And Curtis Sliwa isn't getting out of the race either. I mean, he said they have to put him in a pine box for him to get out. So I don't see this happening. And also, like, what poll is going to decide which of them is? But obviously, I mean, this is just a statement on the fact that there is so much fear and panic about Mamdani in some corners of the city, right? I mean, we're talking about some big business interest and some, elements of the political class who think he's too extreme and, the whole socialism thing is going to destroy the city. So we have to find a way to stop him.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to get behind one candidate, which by the way is probably true.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they will, we remind our listeners and viewers all the time, but this is not ranked choice voting. It is a winner take all scenario. So you can win with just a plurality of votes, not a majority of votes. And all of these anti-Mamdani votes will essentially split the whole pool.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Adams and Cuomo and Sliwa and Walden, I mean, they're all going to get some share of the pie, and that is probably going to throw the election to Mamdani.
Yeah.
Because, and there's been some polls that have shown Mamdani coming out ahead in that 4 or 5 person race. So it makes sense on the one hand, but then you've got Adams and Cuomo this week both talking about why the other one should get out. And it wasn't really clear to me from Adams' comments, and then I don't think Cuomo exactly clarified this, like whether they actually had a conversation.
They did.
I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
I know, but yes, they did have a conversation.
And Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, in his discussion of this conversation this week, compared it to conversations that people had about Carl McCall and Andrew Cuomo back in the day, saying that he's constantly trying to push out Black elected officials. I mean, I think he said Carl McCall
and David Patterson,
Charlie King, which I can't recall that exact. I guess he tried to run for attorney general back in the day, and that was there was a number of examples that Adams used to show that Andrew Cuomo, whenever it's some Black politician's moment to rise, that he tries to stifle that potential ascension, I guess.
Right. But doesn't Andrew Cuomo do that to every politician of all backgrounds?
Oh,
and he ended up getting Carl McCall's support too.
And David Patterson's support too. I'm not discounting what the mayor is saying, but I also think that that's just the pattern of Andrew Cuomo, period.
Yeah. And also, Mayor Adams has done this before where he sort of plays the race card.
Yes.
In the campaign. But with Patterson, there's some truth to the fact that Andrew Cuomo sort of sabotaged his governorship back in 2010. But like you said, all these people have come around to supporting Cuomo. But also, this shows to me that Eric Adams, he has come out swinging in the past 2 weeks. He has all these attack lines ready to go after Cuomo, to go after Mamdani.
He's not even pronouncing Mamdani's name anymore.
Can I just say this? Listening to press conferences when the mayor was asked about Zohran Mamdani before he won the primary, he was pronouncing his name
correctly.
And was complimentary of him, saying
complimentary of him, yes.
Criticizing Andrew Cuomo, saying that Zohran Mamdani stood for something. At least you knew that he was principled, that he had a set of ideas, and you couldn't say the same thing about Andrew Cuomo, who flip-flopped and was just going wherever the political winds took him. Now his name is Zohan.
He says it multiple different. I've heard him mispronounce his name with different pronunciations within the same interview.
Although to be fair, Eric Adams mispronounces a lot of people's
but
names.
He does,
but he did know it before.
Intentional. I feel like this is like a I don't know what the purpose will be. I mean, I guess to confuse.
I mean, it's just like Kamala Harris and people intentionally mispronouncing her name. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But Eric Adams, it seems like every single day he's been on TV. He's
Multiple
doing
times
so
a
many
day.
more interviews than he used to.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's designed
Not
just to go, not with New York One.
Right. But not to take it off track, but it does raise questions for me about how is there a line being crossed in how he's using his official office as mayor? Because we do know he's going to have issues fundraising, right? Unless
we'll see. I mean, one of the more interesting stories this week that came out on the Times was that the new campaign manager for the Eric Adams campaign, they released their slate of people this week, sat down with 2 billionaire hedge fund managers, one of which was, of course, Bill Ackman, who we love to talk about, before he hired him as his campaign manager. I mean, that's wild. They would sit down with major donors before.
Yeah.
Wait,
but he's not going to get matching funds, we don't think.
No,
right?
I mean, that's tied up in federal court. But we're going to find out. There's an indication the CFB is already filing papers in federal court to tear down Adams's argument to try to get those matching funds. And there's a meeting next Tuesday.
Can I just say one of the funniest things I thought that Eric Adams said this week? I think in that same CNBC interview, he said that 6 months ago, he knew Zohran Mamdani was going to win the primary because he heard some young people, he overheard some young people talking in a restaurant, and then he was shopping and he heard another couple of people, he overheard people talking about Mamdani, and he said, that's when I knew he was going to win. And I'm thinking,
just like he said, he asked for flight upgrades since he was a kid, even though previously he said he didn't have money to travel.
But I mean, big credit to Eric Adams if back in January, 6 months ago, he knew that Zohran Mamdani was going to win. But what's funny too is Adams made it sound as though that was part of the reason he decided to skip the primary was because he saw Mamdani was such a strong candidate, I guess. But at the time, that was not the explanation that Eric Adams was giving.
Right. And then how do you know when to believe what he's saying? Like if at the time he was very, very clear that the reason why he wasn't running in the primary was because of this federal case and the timing of it. So now you're saying a different reason than which one do we take seriously? Or is it both? I don't know. Maybe it is both. And
one thing we learned is that Donald Trump does not appear to be weighing in. This week, during the many events that he had in which he was asked about Mamdani, he was asked about, don't know if he was explicitly asked whether he would weigh in the race, but he said he wasn't going to be weighing in the race.
Which is interesting because there has been all this speculation for months about whether Trump might decide that he wants Mayor Adams to win and might pressure the Republican Party to make him their candidate, which is complicated because they'd have to throw Sliwa off the ballot
out of state,
which might involve him, moving out of state or,
I mean, I've heard theories that Sliwa might get some post within the,
in the Trump administration, which he adamantly says he won't do. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it is still possible that Trump could decide he wants Republicans to run Eric Adams as their candidate, but it doesn't really sound like he's interested in doing that at this point.
Yeah.
So,
but then, and there's also been these questions of whether or not if Andrew Cuomo runs fully, will the DOJ investigation into his handling of nursing homes and COVID, will that all of a sudden become a real issue? Mm-hmm. So
we haven't gotten any word. I mean, you're close to Cuomo, Ayana, close to the Cuomo campaign. We don't have a word on what he's doing.
No, we know that he is making lots and lots of phone calls and pleading his case to potential donors, potential endorsers, that he does believe when you look at the field, I am best positioned to beat Zohran Mamdani. Aside from making those phone calls, I don't know how effective they've been in winning people over, because we do continue to see day in and day out people saying, yes, I was with Cuomo during the primary, but now I'm not. And so he's making phone calls and trying to assess the field and trying to convince other people. but there's been no clear indication. I haven't even heard rumblings of a potential timeline on whether or not he makes a decision. And it could go on like this until November. We don't know.
At least till the summer.
And he could wait until that poll comes out
In September.
that's supposed to decide who's actually going to run.
But
I'm sure it'll be from Emerson.
And I don't, obviously I don't work for a campaign, but I don't understand how Eric Adams being on television every single day, creating headlines, talking about you, talking about Zohran, and you not saying anything publicly. I don't understand how that that puts you in a position to be a leader in this poll. Like, didn't we just go through this in the primary where Zohran was out every day and you weren't, and then you lost?
Yeah.
So I don't get how that similar strategy would lead to a different outcome for November.
Fix the City, by the way, is still out there, right? Fix the City is the super PAC, essentially the outside group that spent how much? $20 million?
$22 million the last time I checked.
trying to
It's
get Cuomo
probably more
elected.
than that, honestly. And they're
They're still
saying
they're still fundraising?
they're fundraising. They've raised a couple $100,000 and they're assessing the field. They don't have a candidate just yet, but they are thinking about what will be the next steps. But we'll keep you updated on that. But that's going to have to do it for this week's episode. You can always watch us on Inside City Hall Monday through Friday at 7. And we love your feedback. You can send us an email at yourstoryNewYork1@charter.com. You can subscribe to Off Topic wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a review. You can leave us some review if you don't like what you're hearing, I guess, as well. Thanks to our producer, Anthony Roman. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.